Hi, everyone. This is Dawn Richard, also known as The Awakening with Dawn, and this is the Wake Up to Real Love podcast, where we share stories of struggles and triumphs in love, sex, and relationships, along with expert advice to create more conscious connections. I am super honored today to have my guest, Tim Wotton. That's Cotton with a W.
My catchphrase.
And I have this long, introduction for him, but Tim, I totally see you as an earth angel, that you are here spreading these messages of hope and reminding people to live in the present moment and never take anything for granted. So you are a huge messenger for how people should live their life. So besides being an earth angel, Tim has battled the chronic lung condition, cystic fibrosis, and diabetes for nearly 50 years. He's an award-winning author, blogger, podcaster, and public speaker, helping others to overcome their life and health challenges by sharing his physical and mental survival strategies. Living in Wimbledon, England, with his wife, Katie, and 12-year-old son, Felix, he knows that life is short, and this has made him appreciate the benefits of positive family and friend relationships. Welcome, Tim Wotton. I'm so honored that you're here with me.
Great. Well, thanks very much, Dawn. And do you know why I have the catchphrase cotton with a W?
No, why?
Well, because somebody once called my surname Wonton, a Chinese dumpling.
I think I did hear you say that.
I thought I need a catchphrase. Cotton with a W will hopefully tell them not to go down the food front.
That's kind of like my last name it looks like Richard, but it's French. So I always have to say it's French, Richard, blah, 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 blah. Yeah. So just making it. So that's why I was like The Awakening with Dawn. People can probably remember that.
Well, and plus awakening does happen at dawn. So
yes, exactly. So I want to start off asking you about Felix and this amazing trip to the Air Museum that you took a couple weeks ago.
Yeah. Very good research. This is a father and son thing that I've been desperate to do because my father had taken me to this particular air museum.
Uh-huh.
It's a massive aerodrome. It was active in World War II. You know, they had a fighter squadron based there.
Uh-huh.
Now it's got lots of huge hangars that contain a lot of World War II planes up to current fighter planes. It's even got, there's an American hangar for those American listeners with the Blackbird, which is, if you know what that is, it's the most beautiful, stealthy looking airplane. So I took him there, and it was about an hour and a half drive, just me and him, his summer holiday. And I knew he didn't know what to expect.
Uh-huh.
And when we literally paid our entrance and walked out before the hangars, there's this massive aerodrome space, and there was the World War II American bomber called the Flying Fortress, which it was the Memphis Belle film you may recall from the 90s. That was the aeroplane in that. That was just right in front of us. And then there was the Spitfire, which is the English fighter plane from World War II, was just taking off with a beautiful sounding engine.
Wow.
And it was just like, glad we're here because he's witnessed that.
Wow.
It was a very special day, and it's always nice when you, as a parent, you are planning something and maybe time and work gets in the way for many years, but then suddenly you make it happen, and the weather stayed fine in England, which is a rarity. And it was just a lovely day, and our little sort of humour together, and trying to eat our lunch outside with wasps. I don't know if you get them in America.
Yes. Yeah.
All over our food. It's just a sort of memory of my past, and it was lovely to have that, and hopefully he'll always remember that day.
And what about the airplane? Was it called the Swordfish that your great grandfather flew?
So it's Katie's, my wife. It was her grandfather flew in World War II, and that Swordfish, which was like an old-fashioned biplane, but still used in World War II. Had a massive torpedo underneath it, so it would be flying and it would try and take out ships. That was its use in World War II. But he was able to see the aeroplane that his great grandfather that he did know
That's
um,
amazing.
flu and World War II. So that was very special.
So what were his reactions and responses of the day?
Just, I suppose, with him, if he's not always looking to be on his phone, you know,
Like
if he's
every
bored,
12-year-old did, like every teenager.
yeah,
Yeah.
if he's bored, you'll just see the top of his head at lunch and
Uh-huh.
around the dinner table because he's looking at his phone. But actually, he was using his phone, but it was for Instagram, and he was filming himself with these planes.
Cool.
So you just suddenly go, yeah, this has got you. This has interested you.
Nice.
And I said, what hangers do you want to do first? Let's plan our day. So it wasn't just Daddy being in control. It was like we co-created the day together.
That's wonderful. And
Yeah,
you also co-create a lot of moments being his hockey coach, huh?
yeah. That's field hockey, not ice hockey, which a lot of your
Right?
listeners would probably associate with the word hockey. So field
Especially in
hockey,
Chicago.
especially in Chicago, where at certain times a year, every single pond is a nice hockey option. But yeah, so hockey, field hockey, played on AstroTurf. I've played all my life. It's really helped my health and my lung function to be that active. It's a
Uh-huh.
hard sport. And he recently took it up himself, and the team needed an extra coach. So I helped coach his team and him. Like my father again, that father-son thing, he
Uh-huh.
my coach in my junior days and the coach of my brothers. So it was really lovely to be able to play my part. And again, you're playing in the really cold conditions.
Right.
Winter, it's a winter sport predominantly. So I was smiling behind a slight frown at times.
And he doesn't say, "Shut up, Dad. You're not my coach," or "You're not my dad." Does he ever
No,
get into that?
he I think when you those listening that have coached any of their children in any form of sport, let's say maybe baseball, little league, you've got to get a balance of giving everybody the same sort of command and
Right.
guidance, so you're not trying to look like your son's or your child's being made to feel special. In fact, I was
Or
probably half.
the other direction too, because some dad coaches are harder on their kids, right?
Yeah, I think I was at times
Uh-huh.
because, but at the same time, he never complained, and I kept the narrative with him saying, "Would you like me to stop being coach, or am I too much?"
Uh-huh.
Just so that he had a chance to say,
This isn't working for me,
yeah,
maybe.
yeah, rather
But
than just assuming that it was all good.
but he's okay. Like, you're a cool coach.
I He never complained.
Yeah, because my ex coached a lot. I mean, every one of my kids, numerous seasons, and they all said, "Oh, he was a great coach. He's a great coach." So I'm really thankful that he had that impact in their life.
Mm,
Yeah, it was,
yeah,
a way to
it's a
bring
very
them
positive thing.
closer.
Yeah, yeah, it's a bond, and we go and watch sport together. There's
Mm-hmm.
a sport that isn't so popular in your country, rugby,
Uh-huh.
where it's like American football, but they don't wear all the padding and the
Right.
helmet.
They're beefier and stronger and tougher.
Yeah, they're just madder. Um, yeah, we watch that together, and he knows the players and the team, and also he likes soccer. Um, so we follow. I think the English Premiership soccer is well known around the world.
Right.
So we,
What
he's
what
really
team what team are your favorites?
well. I'm from this lowly town called Southampton, so
Oh, my son actually likes them.
oh right, there we go.
Yeah.
Not so lowly. Know your son. He's got good taste. So yeah, I'm a Saints fan, and
Uh-huh.
so my son is by default, though because we live in London, he supports Chelsea.
Uh-huh. My other son likes Manchester United.
Okay, yeah, well, and the rest of the world.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's been lovely for me to be able to chat to him on this sort of similar level, like I would do with my friends when we go out.
Uh-huh.
And Felix, who's only 12, he's a bit of an encyclopedia now.
Really?
There's a bit of a Rain Man thing going on about stats and data. He seems to know everyone, which club they've been to, and how many years, how many goals.
My
But then
my
if I get him
yeah.
to do something at school, he's like, oh, I can't be bothered.
Well,
So
because it's not as interesting.
interesting.
My kids play a lot of FIFA, on the
Yeah.
PlayStation. And so my oldest son, especially, like he knows everybody's salary, how many times they've been traded, like all the politicking, and
Yeah,
because they're fascinated. So I think they gain some great skills by watching and,
you're right.
being obsessed with it.
Yeah, and just trying to translate it to something at school would be helpful one day.
Right.
But that's a work in progress.
It's always a work in progress.
Okay. Your children are a bit older than Felix, so
Yeah.
I'll bow down to your knowledge on that.
And then I heard you said that you met Katie through field hockey as well.
Yeah, she played. It's just a rare sport in as much that men and women can play together. So it's called mixed hockey,
Uh-huh.
and it's very sociable. And she would play for her club on a Saturday, and I would play for a different club. But early in the 90s, we knew each other through playing for this other mixed team on a Sunday.
Uh-huh.
And it was a slow burner because we always got on. But I've learned many things in life, but one is that timing is everything.
Right.
And the timing probably wasn't right. Either she was with someone or I was with someone. And
Mm-hmm.
then in our late 20s, we were both single. And I saw her just before a Saturday game because there was this pub that we'd meet in, or bar.
Before the game.
Yeah, not for alcohol. It's just a meeting spot. Would
Okay.
definitely return there for refreshment. But I asked her how she was because I made a bit of a beeline for her. I think there was always a frisson, to use a bit of French.
She's
Which was,
beautiful. She's beautiful, by
oh,
the way.
thank you, Dawn.
Yeah.
I agree. And she, I asked her, "How are you doing, Katie?" She says, "Oh, I'm not so good. Um, Men are awful. She maybe had a difficult situation, or last boyfriend hadn't been very pleasant."
Mm-hmm.
And I jokingly said, "Oh, that's because you've never dated me." Um, yeah,
Look at you.
I know. Tried the line, and actually, it was only a month or two later that at a Christmas party, everyone's favourite party, Christmas party, we sort of did more than just talk. So
Hooked up, my kids call it.
hooked up. Yeah, we go. Yeah, and so yeah, it was. There's a Sex and the City expression I tend to throw about, which is when a man knows he's sort of ready, because we're a lot less mature than women.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not one of those men that thinks we're not. We are by a couple of years. And if not that a lady would ever listen, but if we were just told they're less mature than you, don't expect them to be as mature as you because it will take a while. But the Sex and the City expression is when a man's cab light is on, then the next serious relationship is one they'll go off in the night with. And
Wow.
my cab light was on.
Wow. So
And the fact
how,
that we both played hockey was, you've already got a lot in common,
right.
and very similar upbringings, and we still played Sunday hockey together, and it's just a really good bond. And found out that when you're around about 30, you don't need to muck about and spend 5 years trying to fathom things.
Figuring it out.
Yeah, you work it out pretty quick whether it's a good mix and match.
Yeah,
Chemistry feels appropriate.
I had a friend years ago say like they had a 3-date rule, like 3 dates, and then you can figure out if you actually want to go on more dates.
Okay.
And then a 3-month rule, like after 3 months, if you don't have the sense of this is something you want to pursue, then it's probably not, and I feel like the older you get, the more true that is,
Yeah,
that
this probably goes down to 1 date and 1 month the older you get.
probably. So how
Probably
long?
1 minute and 1 hour.
So how long did it take you and Katie to get to the point where you decided, yeah, this is it. This is our, I
I
want to
probably
be
could
your
have,
partner.
yeah, I probably could have proposed to her way before I did. It was only about a year and a half, 2 years in dating.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm quite a cheeky guy, because I've got my cystic fibrosis, which is a real hardship every day.
Uh-huh.
I try and find a lot of things to make life lighter and fun,
Uh-huh.
because life is far too short, and I know that.
Uh-huh.
But so I used to tease her by at dinner. I would say, "Would you?" and then do a pregnant pause, and then say, "Pass the salt, please."
You're so mean. How did she put up with that?
Well, I think if you're quite natural, I'm not trying to be something different. If she likes this goofy guy,
Yeah.
yeah, then we've got a good chance, haven't we? If I'm trying to be, my best behavior and
Oh,
can't be a
yeah.
goof,
I
then
get that.
when you are trying to be the goof, she'll go, "What? Why are you different?"
Yeah.
So yeah, it just helps. Your friends inherently like the person you are,
Yes.
warts and all.
Yes.
And I know that a marriage or a long-term relationship is different to your best friends, but there are some similarities in as much that try and be your true self, because don't try and reinvent or become a different person. And I've
Yeah.
seen
I
certainly
just,
male friends having to be a very different animal than they were before, and yeah, I haven't seen those relationships always last.
no, because I feel like when people pretend and they hide, then of course there are going to be issues because you can't pretend and hide for very long.
Mm,
Eventually this tiger doesn't change its stripes. It's like
yeah.
I can pretend I'm a lion or or a kitty cat, but if my tiger comes out, it's like it's my tiger because that's who I am.
Yeah. So
So
so I did put it out there, and as far as it's likely that I'm going to propose,
mhm.
but and this will sound quite cheeky, but I decided to propose to her on her birthday because it would be just one less date to remember.
Did she appreciate that or was she upset about that?
She was delighted to be asked, I'd like to think. I'd rang up her father the night before.
Uh-huh.
I'd left her flat to go out in the car and rang up her father,
Uh-huh.
who all these years later still hasn't said yes, but never mind, we'll push on. No, he was just a very formal chap. I like the gentleman a lot, but back then he was even more formal,
Uh-huh.
and he sort of gave me a very general answer without saying, "Great,
Oh.
yes." But
Oh.
anyway, it's his daughter, and I've got to respect that.
Uh-huh.
So I got that. I was always felt I was going to do that sort of courtesy thing. Um, so yeah, the next day on her birthday, I then proposed, and uh, so that was November, and then we married the following July, so
Mhm.
2003.
Nice. So how has Katie embraced you dealing with your cystic fibrosis? Because I would imagine every relationship has challenges, but this is a life and death challenge every day.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
how has she faced this with you? How has she helped you face this with you?
Okay, well, the answer to that is a whole podcast.
Of
But
course.
to condense it, one thing that hasn't been mentioned, she's a nurse.
Ah, okay.
No, she's not a nurse to cystic fibrosis people. She's a nurse, like a senior nurse
Uh-huh.
in a London hospital, dealing with people before they have cancer operations.
Hmm.
So she's extremely experienced, but intuitively she understood the illness, knew about it. I was able to coach her and share more
Hmm.
because I look relatively well, but it's what lies beneath with cystic
Right,
fibrosis. And of
right.
course, I'm a diabetic as well. So, you know, the this will sound counterintuitive to people, but it's what she doesn't do that's important. She doesn't make a big fuss at times.
Hmm.
CF isn't cystic fibrosis isn't more than it ought to be in the relationship. But when I'm having a tough time, or I need to go to hospital, or when I'm going for an outpatient's appointment, we can have a really joined up conversation, and she's all ears.
Hmm.
So it's when the chips are down and when I really need her support, then she's got me covered. But for most of the time, certainly now that she's a mum as well and she still works pretty much full time, you know, I can't be that sick note partner, because actually that I don't want to come across as that broken record. And most of the time, we actually, it's a better flow when I'm not moaning about it or talking about it. What I will say is that because one of the common side effects of my lung condition is coughing,
Right.
that is, we're so beyond me waking her up at night. And, you know, sadly, a lot of people die young with cystic fibrosis in relationships as well.
Right.
Their lungs become so poorly that they may need some new lungs via transplant, and that may not always work. So you're speaking to somebody that is partnered with a lady who we're in sort of uncharted territory in lots of ways, because for my long-term condition, we're sort of 16, 17, 18 years together,
Hmm.
where actually a lot of couples with a cystic fibrosis in there, whether it be a girl or a boy, the relationship never lasts that long because the person with CF has died.
Uh-huh.
So we're way beyond, and so it is challenging. And I'd say we really suffer with the low moments
Uh-huh.
and have to be even more joined up. And but thoroughly appreciate the fun bits and the lighter moments. I think that's the balance we've got.
Hmm. Are there other struggles in your relationship besides dealing with CF?
Well, it was a big adjustment to becoming parents. We had to do 6 rounds
Yeah.
of IVF to get Felix.
Wow.
Side effect of my CF is that I'm infertile. So
Uh-huh.
um, yeah, we had IVF breaks a lot of couples. It's such an emotional roller coaster.
Yeah.
That didn't really affect us as a couple. We had a super focused and 110% up for being parents. So the frustrations and when IVF doesn't work, it just sends you down a very sad little spiral.
Right.
Um, Certainly when all your friends are having babies willy-nilly,
Hmm.
and you know that the IVF is the only route and it's only a 25% chance of success. It's
Hmm.
pretty tough thing to take on. But anyway, once we finally got Felix in 2007, because we had never had that sort of cozy chat about, well, what's your parenting style? What's mine?
Yeah.
We, yeah, and Katie had a difficult birth, and so for herself, she was on the back foot health-wise for many years. We really struggled. That was a really, I think every new parent struggles. Um, Lack of sleep.
Yeah.
He probably took on because of my health. She's got also, or she doesn't have to, but she knew that she had to try and keep me alive by not expecting me to be everyday man and being up all night as well as
Right.
going to work. So
Right.
she took the hit, and still does quite a bit on stuff that other men may do. So, one example is we just gone on holiday to Spain. It's mainly the fathers that are up to put towels on the sun lounges, but I'm doing my medication, so she does it.
Right.
Little things like that.
Right.
It's just
That other people take for granted.
yeah, or they just do because they don't know anything else,
Hmm.
and the wife expects them to.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, the early parenting was tough, but I'm also was aware that I've lost hundreds of friends with CF over the years, and
Yeah. I
even
cannot even
sadly, well, sad,
imagine.
there was actually quite a lot that have become parents, and it's just too much for them
Uh-huh.
because they just get too tired and their lung function dips, and it's just a downward spiral.
Uh-huh.
So, that's in the back of my mind all those years, those early formative years. You know, I want to be a dad as long as possible, but it'd be even better if I can be there, you know, for as much of his life as possible and not fall too early. And that did mean that Katie did take the hit. Um,
Hmm.
but I then, maybe helped out in lots of ways by taking him out, or Felix out in the pram to give Katie rest. So there was the yin and yang, and
Hmm.
we did try and converse about how best to make it work.
Hmm. And how, when you were talking about your parent, your different parenting styles, I, of course, I wonder how your parents were with you versus with your twin versus with your older brother. I mean, it seems, from what I read, a few blog posts, it seems like you guys had a really close knit family, and so I I wonder I wonder all sorts of things. I wonder about any sense of maybe guilt that your twin brother has that he doesn't have CF versus you. If there's been any sort of like resentment, why did I get it and not him? And just how your parents either normalized your situation or just how that all worked in your family growing up. Like, how did you come to define yourself through the eyes of your family?
Yeah, so a chapter of my book, and my survival memoir is called, quite provocatively, it's called How Have
How
I
have
Cheated
I?
Death?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so there's a chapter in that book called Not Alone,
Mm-hmm.
which basically sums up that I couldn't survive on my own, and the family were the fabric of my survival, certainly in my early years.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I never felt resentful or blamed them that I've got it, because they didn't know they were carrying it
Right.
effectively. So it's not their fault, you know. And I can still tell my mum, if she's ever in doubt. My father passed away 9 years ago, but
Years ago. Yeah, I'm
he knew.
sorry.
I didn't ever blamed him. Um, and as far as my siblings, my brothers, my elder brother and my twin brother, um, my elder brother was quite similar to my father. I think they struggled emotionally with seeing me suffer.
Mm-hmm.
Um, whereas my twin, I think twins is a really superb bond, and we're just like, I joke, we met across a crowded room. Yeah, you can only use that one if you are a twin. Um, yeah, so I love him dearly, and he, don't know, the egg gets split, and you never know. No twins are just the same. They just
Right.
can look like each other or have the same birthday, and he he's perfectly healthy. He doesn't have the need to seek out challenge. He quite likes going with the flow.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think he uh, is super thoughtful and mindful of my suffering, and if
Mm-hmm.
I need to go to hospital, he will either visit or send a little gift. Um, so I'm never in doubt that they support me.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, my illness was a big thing throughout my formative years in the house, because everything had to stop for my treatment, and
Mm-hmm.
couldn't go out the house until my physiotherapy and nebulizers had been done. And we'd often go on holiday relatively close to where we lived in Southampton, so that should I have a bad turn, we weren't stranded somewhere.
Right.
My health would suddenly go badly wrong. So it played a huge part in our lives. But at the same time, I was playing sport with my brothers, just keeping
Mm-hmm.
up with them. It probably and has.
How did you do that?
Well, I probably have played sport from the get-go. So even though my lungs aren't great, I've exercised them all my life,
Uh-huh.
at least twice a week.
Uh-huh.
And I'm 48 now, and a lot of people, certainly my peers, have given up the ghost on any exercise.
Right.
Whereas I need it to literally
To
need it
live.
matter of life to death, what
Yeah.
life or death. And
Yeah.
my point, I suppose, is that my brothers saw me playing sport and didn't think, oh, he's sick note and he's going to pass away soon. Wrap him up in cotton wool. It was, let's just, treat him similarly. And I think that then set my benchmark for how I've always felt about myself. I've never benchmarked myself with other people with my condition. I've benchmarked against other people on the hockey field who are perfectly healthy,
Mm-hmm.
and or people in the office, or out socially. In fact, I would
Mm-hmm.
try and outdo them all, and
Are
go
you a little competitive, Tim?
probably more than I would ever admit. Yeah.
You just blushed a little bit when I asked you that.
Yeah, well, hey, I'm competitive with my illness,
Yeah.
um, and I know boxing isn't a sport that everyone loves because it's so barbaric and brutal,
Oh.
and anything else that begins with the letter B. But it is harsh, and it feels like I'm fighting a demon, like a Mike Tyson in the ring that every day wants to take my head off.
Uh-huh.
Um, and therefore, I have to be competitive
Uh-huh.
because the doctor can't help me every day. In fact, the doctor is just a small part of my survival.
Yeah.
It's a very holistic approach I've adopted, which is one of the reasons I'm still here, I think. And so, yeah, I am competitive with the illness. I'm therefore maybe competitive with myself. If I commit to going to the gym, come hell or high water, it will happen.
Uh-huh.
There'll be no sort of awful, oh, I can't be bothered. I'll just eat a takeaway. No, it's I've committed to go. The lungs need it. I'll feel better once I'm done,
Mm-hmm.
however harsh it is. So it's going to happen, And I would have to look in the mirror that day if I hadn't gone and go, well, what happened to you? You've let yourself down. And
Mm-hmm.
that's how it's become. No one else. I don't do any of my meds. I don't go to do exercise to impress anyone else. It's just for me.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people are peacocks in the gym. I don't know if that's an
Yeah, yeah.
expression
Like,
transcended
yeah, yeah,
upon.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Big macho. Yeah,
yeah.
look at me. Yeah.
I went to the gym earlier today, and there was a guy that really should just get a room on his own in the locker room. I go there just to get these knackered lungs going, and I've got osteoporosis as a side effect of too many steroids.
Uh-huh.
So I go and do my weights program to try and improve my bone density as well.
Uh-huh.
And I'm just all about that. And it's very single-minded. I don't need to be in a class. I don't need motivation from others. It's just what I can bring myself. But circling back to your question, yeah, the family bond was intense, and I think it's had a knock-on effect on how I see my general friendships because I think everyone tends to look at me if they want something organized socially. They go, well, if Tim's organizing it, people will turn up. And
Mm.
I'm like Mr. Network as far as there is that expression of 6 degrees of separation. But
Right.
I think with me, it's about three or two. I need to know a lot of people because
Uh-huh.
I tend to stay in contact and actually with the modern ways with text and
Uh-huh.
um, email, it's not that onerous really staying in contact with lots of your friends. And I make sure I think because life is short and because every day feels like a blessing and a gift,
Uh-huh.
and even I put it, it feels like an event. I want to make sure that I'm in contact with as many people and make them feel good about themselves because I can help myself by helping others.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I was going to ask you because you said about your holistic approach, like how I know that mindfulness is a big part of your life. So how did you find that, or how did it find you, and how has that impacted both, your daily living as well as your relationships with the people around you?
Yeah, great question, Dawn. You should do this for a living. Uh, um, as well as good looks, you're a good interviewer.
Thank you. You're very sweet.
I would say that the Holy Trinity of my survival, or anybody who wants to outlive a chronic condition, is threefold. It's you're doing your meds flawlessly.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's the regular exercise, and the last of that Holy Trinity is the power of the mind.
Mm-hmm.
And I only really fought it for the first 35 years with the first two, doing the meds and exercise. Mentally, I was just bullish rather than strategic,
Mm-hmm.
not realizing we only use a small percent of our brain to good effect. And the catalyst was when I got my side effect diagnosis of type 1 diabetes.
Mm-hmm.
I passed go and went straight past type 2 to the good one. And
Always going for the best, right, Tim?
always, why muck about with type 2? Uh, I'm on 40 pills a day and it takes about 2 hours every day. So
Yeah.
just to add some injections initially was really tough.
Mm-hmm.
But once I got into my groove, again, I'm my biggest taskmaster. So, but it was a really pivotal time adjusting to that diagnosis because suddenly I had a condition I was conscious and competent about. I didn't know much about it. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't know how I was going to cope. I would have my blood sugars be far too high, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm not coping. When you do your first couple of injections in your body, your leg, your thigh, your abdomen,
Yeah.
it's a tough gig. It's a very small, fine needle. But if you've never done it, I mean, now I just, get on with it. But
I don't like needles. I don't like to look at them.
okay, well, necessity is the mother of all invention, Dawn,
Yeah. Yeah, I
and I
know.
had to work it out. But anyway, one of the key points here is mentally up to that point, I was probably more hardwired to the negative. Oh, you can't cope,
Hmm.
because I think our minds generally have, if you think of it as a radio station, it's more like sort of morose FM rather than jazz hands FM.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's like that fight or flight. Like, which one
Yeah,
are you going for today?
yeah. And I don't think I know. I was probably with that extra diagnosis for a period of time,
Mm,
probably complaining too much to people. How am I going to cope? It felt like a real crossroads moment.
hmm.
Is this the time where it's too much, having too
Hmm.
many conditions?
Hmm.
And two separate people at work suggested a book called The Secret by Rhonda Byrne.
Hmm.
And in particular, they referenced the health chapter in that book, The Secret. And so I bought it because I'm that person that when you keep hearing, it just feels a bit too serendipitous not
Right,
to do something about it.
right.
I'm that person that will always go for it. If I've heard something, it just feels like, yeah, I'm meant to hear that right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you understand that. You're
Yep,
very conscious.
yep.
So I got hold of the book and just was, here we are, the pencil. I pencil the hell out of self-help books so that it's, I can see where I've got to come back to keep learning and remembering
Yeah,
the key points.
yeah.
So that chapter on health was really important because rather than bemoan what I had, it taught me to project in my mind what I wanted to have.
Hmm.
So rather than go, oh God, I'm going to have a rubbish day because of X, Y, and Z, it said, no, I'm going to have a really good day and I'm going to achieve all I can, and my lungs will enable me, and I will have good control of my diabetes.
Hmm.
That's the positive affirmations that I started doing, and as any good habit, I didn't just do them high days and holidays. I did them every
Every
day,
day.
and it's been a habit that I've finessed and improved with other affirmations, and I do it every day. I find the best time for me. Everyone's different, but in the bathroom, I bookend the day in the bathroom, don't you? Brushing your teeth after a shower.
Hmm.
And that's just me time. I don't want the radio on. I just want solitude. I want stillness, and I want
Hmm.
to tell myself the life and health I'm going to have. So,
Hmm.
so that was a key moment. And then what flowed from that was me just reading a whole bunch of different books around mindfulness as it was becoming more um, popular. But also, this line of thinking has been around for thousands of years.
Hmm.
It's not being packaged in the way it's being packaged now for us.
Hmm.
And I could see that it just felt better that Holy Trinity was more complete for me when I was able to be more positive, more positive. So any negative thoughts were spun to more positive ones. That's one aspect. The other aspect is getting into things like gentle meditation, understanding the most important person that we'll ever speak to is myself. And I know
Hmm.
you believe in that
Yeah.
completely.
Yes.
Um, and I think that a lot of people maybe have had the blessing of a fairly healthy life or without any huge crisis or life event will just think that's just fluff. But you need the fire lit under your backside by something to make you realize, there's more to it than that.
Hmm.
And I'm on my uppers right now, and I need something different than what's helped me in the past. And that level of presence and mindfulness, which is a great expression, I know you're going to love. I only heard it this week, which is why I'm playing it to everyone. Instead of practice makes perfect, because I don't think perfect ever works with mindfulness and presence because it's an
I
ongoing
don't.
life journey.
Yeah, I don't think I think we are perfect, but the idea of reaching some sort of
Yeah,
perfection is external.
exactly. So instead of practice makes perfect,
Uh-huh.
practice makes progress
Yeah.
because you're just gently tapping away and finessing at this habit. or
Uh-huh.
being more present. And some days better than others.
Right.
And I just know it helps me. It helps me through the tough moments at 4 in the morning. If I'm having a downstairs, not wanting to wake up Katie or Felix, I'm having a coughing fit,
Mm-hmm.
that's when I need to be completely clear about what this is in the context of that day.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't define that day. It's a bloody tricky moment, but I'm still going to go to work. I'm still going to, be sociable. I'm still going to be a father to
Mm-hmm.
Felix and a wife and a husband to get to Katie. You
Mm-hmm.
know, um, so that mindfulness approach allows me to contextualize, wallow in stuff that needs to be wallowed in for a period of time,
Mm-hmm.
but also spin out the positive side of what I believe is the right mindset.
Be-
So yeah,
because I
my
feel
journey there.
like a lot of people, because I'm this way too. People have said to me, "Oh, you're just looking at life through rose-colored glasses. You can tell yourself all this BS, but it's not really true." These are all the naysayers. And my point is, what do you want to focus on? Yeah, and how is what you're focusing on helping you in your life?
Yeah,
How is it propelling you? Because in my perspective, I feel like we are all here to grow and evolve. And like you were talking about, the progress, that evolution of, how can I become the best version of myself by constantly challenging myself and exploring new things and learning new things and growing. And I feel like whatever we put our focus on, it doesn't really matter what else is going on around us externally. It's like,
mm,
this is the space that I want to create for myself. Doesn't
yeah,
really matter what anybody else's opinion is.
yeah,
And it makes me feel better. And that's what I want. I don't want to feel worse.
yeah. I read a recent quote by Muhammad Ali. If you have the same thoughts at 40 as you did at 20, you've wasted 20 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm very different to that person. In lots of ways, it's the same rigor with my condition
Mm-hmm.
and desire to have fun,
Mm-hmm.
but underpinned now by this sort of mental agility, which I believe every day I'm going to learn something new. And I'm like a magpie. I don't know if you know that, the bird that picks up. Do you know that bird in
Yeah.
America?
Yeah.
I'm always trying to find new bits about being present. What am I doing that I, keep going with the good bits, but where am I going to learn or read or hear something new that I can
Yeah.
just build into my daily um, way of living? So
Yeah,
I'm super
because
curious.
each message, that you receive, whether or not you rehearse it time and time again, it's in there. It's in
Yeah,
there and it's having an effect. And that's why I feel like, that part of our the part of our mind that we don't use because we don't use a lot of it. So it's like me trying to, well, I say trying to fill it, but Tim, I honestly believe that we're just remembering our truth,
mm, okay,
that we come from this place of perfection. We're born as these perfect little, human beings, but I believe that we are, spirit in a human body, and that our soul is just guiding us through our life to help us remember that we're full of love, we're full of light, we're full of joy and potential and laughter.
mm,
And I think a lot of these things in our lives that are challenging, chronic challenge, daily challenges,
yeah,
are opportunities for us to see the beauty in the world, to to see what's good around us, to see what's good and beautiful within us and
yeah.
within each other.
And it takes you off autopilot. And
Uh-huh.
I see sort of quite an observer around the office or in generally in life.
Mm-hmm.
I've witnessed far too many people who will fret about something that will never happen. but
Mm-hmm.
they probably lost a whole night's sleep. Weeks will just go, and then you see them, and they're saying the same soundtrack of
Mm-hmm.
worry.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell my son, 98% of the things that you worry about will never happen.
Right.
Just because we become adults doesn't mean that that stat isn't the same.
Right.
And so people do worry about or can have concerns about the future. They also can live too much in the past, but actually, what I'm learning, all we ever really have is this moment. And
Mm-hmm.
the people that would hear that and go, well, academically, I get that, but I don't feel it. Probably they
Yes,
need life
but.
event. They need
Uh,
that life event or health event to make them appreciate that life is short and everything is impermanent. And actually, I have suffered awfully in the past, and I'm going to suffer a lot in the future with my health.
mm-hmm.
But actually, by being more present, I suffer a lot less. And
Mm-hmm.
so, why would I not want more of that? And then join up those moments of feeling really quite present in the course of a day. So you have more days where you actually feel sort of on top of things and joyful than,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Mm-hmm.
disparaging and negative.
Are you helping teach this sense of mindfulness to other people who are dealing with CF?
So I think I'm beyond. I'll try and think beyond CF. I, as an
Yeah,
author,
anybody,
no,
anybody.
anybody, yeah. Because actually, interestingly, for my book and my blog, and I've just recently released a podcast called "The Gift
I
of
know it's
Resilience."
beautiful.
Thank you very much. So the gift of resilience, calm, and joy,
Uh-huh.
because it's another power of three. It's not just resilience for the tough moments. It's calm, steadfast through it all, but
Uh-huh.
also to really appreciate the joyful moments. But
Yeah.
um, I think people with good health have said to me, I've got as much from this as anybody with bad health.
Mm-hmm.
That just reinforces what I felt, that what I have gone through, what I've learned actually for nearly 50 years is super helpful, not just to me,
Mm-hmm.
but also to many others. And that's why I'm always keen to keep helping others and sharing what I've learned. But also through the podcast, I'm interviewing guests who are going through different life challenges or health challenges,
Mm-hmm.
and they can help me and as well as my listeners.
Mm-hmm. That's why I said you're an earth angel. because to me, like I don't know you very well, and I hear your story about your illness, but I think that your illness is a part of your life, but it does not define you. You know,
Mm, yeah,
how you are showing up in the world, and the messages that you are sharing with people, that defines you. Like, you're on this mission to help people live their life to the fullest
yeah,
every single day.
yeah. And I tend to ask myself a question: have I survived cystic fibrosis to do this or feel this? You know, maybe be a job that doesn't feel terribly inspiring. Um, am I doing enough with my knowledge to help others? And
Uh-huh.
if I don't think the answer is the right one, I try and change the environment to make it the right answer.
Uh-huh.
Um, and you know what? Every day, I said it, every day feels like an event. And
Mm.
despite the hardship, I tend to be, and you've seen me in our conference calls, the happiest chap.
Yeah.
I'm always trying to find a joke somewhere, aren't
Crack a
I?
joke. Yep.
Crack a
What's
joke.
the crack?
And I'm just the same when I'm walking in the office, in the gym earlier. I'm super smiley. The amount of people that probably go a whole day without cracking a smile, it's sad.
It's
It's a shame.
sad.
It's a shame.
It's sad.
Um,
People are walking around so unhappy, and it's like, you only have one life to live.
yep,
Why
yep,
don't you not just survive? Because I know you've talked about surviving, but it's really like thriving. How can you live your life in the most abundant, joyful, amazing way as possible? Like,
yep.
I don't know, maybe we're born again, maybe we're reincarnated, I don't know. So why don't I make the most of the time that I have right now?
Exactly. And I've sort of got it to a fine art where I live every day like it could be my last. Not in
Mm-hmm.
a sort of morose way, but
Morose way, yeah.
yeah. But if tomorrow doesn't happen, then I want to make sure that where possible, this day feels joyful. I've learned something. I've helped make a difference to someone else, and I've made someone smile. And
Right. Those are your three questions, right? That you
yeah,
ask yourself every day.
yeah. And the no feel do is what do I want to know? What do I want to feel? And then what do I want to do? Most people just have the do list, a to-do list.
A to-do list with really boring, mundane things that they don't want to do.
Yeah. And I don't believe in bucket lists. I don't believe in New Year's resolutions. Every day,
Mm-hmm.
reset yourself and see what you can no feel do that feels magical. And I sort of touched on meditation, and I think a lot of people struggle with where to begin. And they
Mm-hmm.
think you've got to be sitting in a perfect little posture for an hour. And
Mm-hmm.
they go, well, I've got barely 2 minutes to scratch my backside. How am I going to achieve that? Well, actually, a lot of modern evidence is just 1 minute of breathing
Mm-hmm.
deeply in a mindful way. Just observing your thoughts actually is more helpful if you just do it on a regular basis.
Mm-hmm.
But the way I anchor myself to the present moment is through nature, and
Mm-hmm.
it's free. It costs nothing. And these
Right.
are part of the thousand moments that I witness every day that most people who aren't looking will miss. And nature just opened my back door, and that I can hear birdsong, I can see the clouds,
Mm-hmm.
um, and that allows me to be still and mindful and be present. And for me, it's been really helpful to anchor myself and grow moments in that moment. So grow like a
Roots.
tree, grow roots in that
Yeah.
moment,
Yeah.
and that just feels it could be special. And have wonder and awe about what's around you, whether it be a flight of birds that go over, a particular bird song, a bumblebee just getting on with the day. Uh, there's so many wonderful things, and there's a book by a lady called Bronnie Ware, and her book. She used to be an end of stage nurse to
Mm-hmm.
people who are dying,
Uh-huh.
and she's kept seeing time and again 5 things that people regretted, and it was called Five Regrets of the Dying. And
Mm-hmm.
one of them was that they missed the small moments,
Mm-hmm.
and another one was that they weren't true to themselves.
Right.
Lost
Making everybody else happy instead of
Yeah,
themselves.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
Uh-huh.
Well done. And another one would be that they'd lost contact with really good friends and they regretted that. So, but certainly that one around missing what really was special and important was often the small things,
Uh-huh.
not the big ticket items.
Uh-huh.
And I've
Do,
sort of really honed in on that.
do you think that having Felix has helped you? Because I know that when I had my kids, they I think that kids teach you numerous things. Most importantly, they teach you unconditional love because they can be jerks. They can be misbehaving left and right, but you still love them no matter what, right? So unconditional love, I think your kids teach you forgiveness when they are, and especially, as they get older, they tend to have their moments, that forgive them, and they teach you to stay present, especially when they're little, when kids are so in the moment and they are full of wonder and magic and joy looking at life. When you can look at life through their eyes, it changes your perspective, and it takes you back to that simplicity of, oh my gosh, look at that dump truck, wow, isn't that really cool? Or, oh my gosh, look at those birds, and going chase after them. And,
Yeah,
just those
yeah,
simple, beautiful moments that cost nothing. It's just being present in the moment.
yeah,
Like you said, that presence is a gift.
yeah. And they're all valid and perfectly true, Dawn. And you've had 3 children, so you've got 3 times more experience than me. But I would augment that by saying that it stops it all being about you.
Yeah.
You've got someone else that needs you. Certainly when they're really young, they can do nothing for themselves. So,
Right.
uh, your BS, you know, that's a very American. They love that two letters together. We don't do that in England,
You
but I
don't? What do
quite
you,
like it.
what do you call it?
Crap.
Crap. Same.
Yeah, same. But I just noticed it's quite an American trope, and I like it. Um, yeah, often before kids, you tend to be quite caught up with your own self or be a bit
Yeah.
selfish.
Yeah.
Not everybody, but I think that's a fair picture. And
Hmm.
then suddenly you've got a child that needs you, or the last thing I want to do is take him out again when I've been out all day, but I will go because he wants to go. And
Hmm.
certainly boys are like dogs, they need to be exercised.
My daughter was the same, trust me.
Okay, okay.
It was
Um,
climbing and running and biking and, all of that stuff.
and now that he's 12 and he's actually good value for conversation, if I can get him away from his phone, I
Hmm.
then have to show him role model and get off my phone so that he's got my full attention. And
Hmm.
he's shouting out, "Daddy!" in the house. I will come down and he wants to tell me some sport factoid, and I want to be all attention for him because
Yeah.
he's desperate to tell me something. And yeah, that really those feel quite little special moments with him. I already had quite a few with him today, so it's very real.
Mm, that's amazing. And you felt like your parents treated you in that same manner? They were really present for you?
Yes, I suppose they wouldn't have used that narrative because it wasn't very popular back in the
Right,
70s, would it?
right.
In the 80s? But I think they had to be. My mum was a nurse,
Uh-huh.
so in fact, she used to look after people with my illness on a hospital before I was born. So she
Oh,
saw
wow.
all the signs in me that I had the illness and pushed for
Uh,
an early diagnosis.
uh-huh. Wow.
So she got me very, very disciplined with the meds, and I think
Hmm.
amongst many other things she's been great for, that was really her biggest gift for me, is A, taking ownership, and B, doing the meds flawlessly. And then my father, as I mentioned, coached me hockey,
Hmm.
so he got me being more active. So in different ways, they were very present and supportive.
Hmm. Do you think sports would help all people with CF? I think
Oh yeah,
sports I think sports helps people in general because it just,
yeah,
you learn how to deal with people. You learn the give and take. You learn, to take care of your own body and be aware of your own body.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. And it's as long as you exercise. If we're talking about purely about CF, as long as you're exercising the lungs, it could be an instrument you're blowing into. It
uh-huh.
could be singing.
The
Could be dance.
didgeridoo, I think you've mentioned
We
that
do
before.
in Australia. Yeah. Um, could be dancing. A lot of the people I know who are my age, 48 or slightly older and still alive with CF because they did sport, and that's so you know that's strong evidence
Uh-huh.
and big testimony about why it's so important. So, but actually, most hospitals now will have somebody that comes in and gets them to talk about exercise. They probably have access to a treadmill in the hospital.
Uh-huh.
That didn't exist most of my life. That's just more modern thinking,
Uh-huh.
and it's like a second treatment. That I know I feel as tough as it is, either playing hockey or going on the treadmill. I know that I feel my lungs feel better afterwards.
Uh-huh.
And if I go more than 4 or 5 days without doing one of those exercises, I can feel my lung function reduce.
Uh-huh.
And so I use the treadmill metaphor. I never get off the treadmill as far as
Yeah.
exercise.
Yeah.
It's that crucial to me.
I did that little straw exercise when I was
Oh, you
listening to
did?
your speak. I
Did
did,
you?
yeah. Uh-huh. And I
Okay.
I
The
felt
straw fee. So
yeah, yeah,
the
tell
idea,
tell everybody how to do it.
you put a basic straw in your mouth and hold your nose with your fingers,
Hmm.
or finger and thumb, and try and breathe for a minute. And that's the straw fee challenge. And it just will give healthy people or people with good lungs an idea how having cystic fibrosis can feel when we're having a chronic infection or when we're really unwell.
Hmm.
And yeah, it's as close as you're probably going to get without getting the illness. And I wouldn't wish it on anyone.
It reminded me, I went scuba diving one time, and that's exactly how it felt. It was very conscious. At first it felt a little claustrophobic, like, am I going to get air in? But it was definitely, yeah, it's definitely like work. It's like you are aware of your breathing as opposed to so many people take their breathing for granted.
Yeah. And
Right.
they will do, and it's the simplest thing they can do.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, it's the hardest thing at times, and for many like me.
Uh-huh.
Um, and there's a truism, what a lot of people take for granted, other people pray for.
Yeah.
And it's the same with decent breath. Taking a breath without maybe a cough. Would love to have a night of sleep where I'm not potentially waking up my wife with a cough because it's
Mm-hmm.
so irritating. And then I stay awake for longer because I'm trying to stave off that cough. So it's just a really harsh life that I lead, and the knock-on effect for loved ones is always there. And
There's no type of like a CPAP machine, for people that have sleep apnea. There's nothing like that for
no,
people
because
with
it
CF.
wouldn't help the lungs. Why you're coughing is because the mucus has crept up, and you
Yeah.
want to try and clear it. So
Right.
that sleep apnea device, the CPAP, won't. I don't believe no one's ever suggested that would help me. In fact, you may struggle even more.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the mucus is it's an awful subject, but the mucus is always there in our lungs.
Mm-hmm.
It's very thick, and that's why we cough so much to try and get it
Mm-hmm.
up.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're having a coughing spasm or a fit, then actually there's precious little you can do than just ride the ripple with it. And if
Uh-huh.
that's happening at 4 in the morning, it's
Right.
it's a pretty helpless time for
Right.
people with CF to try and navigate that.
Right.
And I don't blame Katie for getting annoyed and frustrated with me. It's 17, 18 years of it,
Yeah.
not every night, but enough that,
It can be annoying.
yeah, and I haven't said this, but I would say anybody who is either dating or in a long-term relationship with someone with a chronic condition, they're pretty special because they got to see that person beyond the illness
Yeah.
and still love them. And that
Yeah.
there aren't many people. And I also said, or haven't said, that most of my partners in the past they've all been low maintenance really. They're not precious partners. It was all about themselves. They had to be thoughtful and mindful, compassionate.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, it just wouldn't work.
Right.
And Katie, to date, has certainly, been that person that is more compassionate and thoughtful, or we can square off a difficult time quickly with a
Mm-hmm.
joke, and we learn to diffuse difficult moments, or actually get a bit of solitude away from each other. We've never been that couple that have to be glued to each other, and
Uh-huh.
actually solitude in a relationship at times is super helpful,
Yeah.
because then you can sort of reconvene, and you've sort of the
Put things in
frustrations
perspective.
the frustrations have dissipated a bit, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I would definitely. I've learnt many good lessons
Yeah.
for when I need to be out of her sight.
And and so she's your earth angel as well.
Yes, I think we're well matched in that respect.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you one more question about the that movie that came out this year.
Oh yes, 5 feet apart. Yes.
Uh-huh. How was it? What do you think about the
Have you
realistic
have you
portrayal
managed to
of
see it?
I
Did you
haven't
manage?
seen no, I haven't seen it. I just saw it this week. So
You
yeah,
saw the title,
I
yeah.
saw the title. Uh-huh.
So for those that haven't watched it or may have heard of it, 5 feet apart is one of the first ever films that really portrays what having my illness, cystic fibrosis, is about.
Mm-hmm.
But it shows a very adolescent storyline, a love story as well, with
Mm-hmm.
two teenagers, 18-year-olds, meeting in a hospital unit. One thing that I haven't mentioned, is that because of the risk of cross infection, people with my illness shouldn't ever be in the same room, or
Can
really
you
close to
can
each
you wear
other.
masks?
You could do, yeah, and that's what they do in the film.
Uh-huh.
But so maybe let's say people who suffer with cancer, you can maybe have your chemo sat next to each other, and you can bitch and moan and whine about
Uh-huh.
just have that support. But with CF, we can never meet each other.
Mm-hmm.
So the film brings that out, that it's called 5 feet apart because that's in theory, the distance that you should be apart from each other if you are in the same room,
Mm-hmm.
to then not give each other your bugs and your germs.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it does show that even these 18-year-olds, they're close to death, and they need the girl in the film, who was a wonderful actress. she needed a lung transplant in the film. So that just portrays the fact that people die young and suffer really young with CF. It's not, I'm 48 and I'm a rarity,
Mm-hmm.
but people are dying far too young.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's a very poignant film, and I'd recommend anyone watches it because it's actually quite a good story arc to it. Love story for the teenagers as well.
And for me,
Actually,
because I love stories.
right, okay. Well, it was odd. I'm glad I watched it on my own in the cinema.
You said you
Uh,
cried. It really
yeah,
affected you.
yeah, and I probably needed. I can be very vulnerable more than the average man.
Mm-hmm.
Who never likes to admit that they're struggling. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so, but in that particular Facebook post, I felt it was appropriate to A, promote the film, and B, share that I had been struggling with some health problems that this year, and
And
that it
I
was a
think that's
catalyst for me to have
okay.
a cry. Yeah, yeah,
I think that's okay. I mean, I cry. I cry a lot. You know, I've been told many times, you're too sensitive. I'm like, you know what? That's my superpower, because a lot of people are afraid to cry and I'm not.
yeah.
You know, I feel something and it could be sad or it could be joy and I cry. And so I was actually thinking about that when I read that about you. It's like, you know, I'm sure there are plenty of times in your life where you just want to sit in a corner and bawl like a baby.
Me,
Yeah.
I'm actually I'm pretty more than the average male. I'm super transparent about what's going on and share
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
over the top. But actually, I don't cry that often because I've built up this endurance and positivity that it never gets to that point where I'm needing to let it overtake me.
Mm-hmm.
But then maybe it builds up too long, Dawn, so that then when I watched that film, it was just a perfect
Like,
catalyst.
whoosh.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You don't need to wait, Tim,
I know. But I think that's the male psyche as well in play.
which is part of why I'm doing what I'm doing,
Yeah,
because I want to normalize all this stuff. You know, that we all have these, both our, you know, strong sides, and we also have our vulnerable. And I do not say that they're weak, because there's a huge strength and vulnerability, because I feel like that's what connects us. That's what teaches us compassion, both for ourselves and for other people. You know,
yeah,
that we all, no matter what struggles we experience, we all share emotions, you know, hurt, sadness, disappointment, and also peace and joy and fulfillment and contentment. You know, we all share that human experience. And so, you know, I'm really trying to help people honor whatever they're feeling, whatever, wherever they are in this present moment.
yeah, yeah. And it's a worthy uh, purpose for you and one that you're doing a good job on. I would say, because you're not a man,
Yeah.
uh, you wouldn't necessarily know how we feel
Yeah.
when when men meet up with men. We don't always want to talk about too serious of things.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, the more trivial, the better. Which is why,
Because you
fishing.
just like to laugh.
Yeah, goof about, watch the sport. Like last night, I met up with two bloke friends. We watched a boxing fight.
Uh-huh.
In between rounds, I did ask them personal questions about their life, but actually, most of the time, men don't need to have
Yeah.
diatribe.
Right.
It's just about being together, probably
Uh-huh.
minimal dialogue,
Yeah.
the odd grunt
Just
about,
grunting.
yeah. Whereas, my wife, and not just my wife, but others, ladies, they meet together and they have about 12 conversations that can all go on all at the same time, probably never finish any of them. And, and it's amazing. Don't draw breath. And it's a very different sort of way of communicating. And
Yeah.
communication is the essence here. I think it's getting men to be better communicators with each other
Mm-hmm.
because it's more likely that a man is going to say to another man, I'm struggling.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I just want to fess up. I
Mm-hmm.
don't think they necessarily always want to be doing that to a female outside of their partner, and even not to their partner. But
Mhm.
I think men need to get better at it's knowing it's fine to call something out if they're not well or feeling great to another
Mhm.
man, and just because then they'll realize actually he didn't laugh at me, no, he was
He didn't
interested,
judge me.
didn't judge me.
Mhm.
And I'm a communicator by trade and business.
Right. Right.
90% of communicators are females. They're better at communicating.
Mhm.
Pardon me. Pardon me. There's my CF for you.
Yeah.
Um, which means that actually I'm quite a rarity as a communicator, as a male, that
Mhm.
I am therefore mindful as well. Put that in because I think the key tenet of mindfulness is to put yourself in someone else's shoes.
Mhm.
And if you're going to communicate with them, then find out what is making them tick.
Mhm.
Otherwise, you're second guessing.
Mhm.
And I think that helps every friendship I've got and my marriage and my relationship with my son. And it's certainly a takeaway that any listener um, would want if I've got anything to give them. It might be it's not just about yourself, it's putting yourself in the shoes of the person in front of you.
Right. Well, and I know you said that men might not necessarily want to tell their partner, but I feel like because in a way this is my perspective or my perception that you would rather not tell your partner because you want to protect her in some way, which like which to protect the woman I think is um, a wonderful thing in a particular instance, but I don't feel like you have to protect showing your partner who you are because that's honoring who you are. And your partner wants to know who you are. If
Yeah,
they're a partner and if they're supportive and if they're unconditionally loving, like
yeah,
it goes both ways.
yeah. And hey, listen, marriage is it's ongoing.
Yeah.
I've not got it sussed. I've only been married for 16 years, and we have our good and not so good moments.
Yeah.
I'm not going to try and dupe you that it's all amazing,
Right.
but I'm sure that we've got navigated really tricky waters because she and I have been prepared to have some very open and honest conversations.
Yeah.
And in during that hour or however long it takes to have that conversation, it's not easy. And we both need to go away and think about it.
Yeah.
And most of the time, we have to sort of meet in the middle. And there's not one person that has to change their behavior.
Right.
But I do know some friends of mine whose marriages have ended up not working because they kept saying they needed to have that chat and never did it.
Mm.
So just one, maybe 30 minutes to an hour of feeling uncomfortable, actually, they're a friend.
Is going to prevent a divorce.
Potentially could. It could.
Yeah.
And then it's like flexing a muscle. Okay, well, we did it that time and the world didn't fall in and we
Right.
actually woke up the next day and we're laughing again
Right.
because the pressure had sort of reduced
Right.
and the tension had gone.
Right.
So actually the next time the tricky moment comes, okay, well, maybe we do need another difficult and challenging conversation.
Mm-hmm.
But we know that we do it more often or when needed it actually serves us better than just thinking it will just get better magically, which very rarely does it.
No,
So
it becomes a new kind of relating, a new kind of normal.
yeah, so silence isn't always golden, and I'd rather have it out, as they say,
Yeah.
because I know that often it produces a better outcome after the difficult hour or so.
Because you're both being transparent and you're both
Yeah,
seeing each other, as they are and coming, learning some compassion or extending some compassion, acceptance, understanding, all of those things that we want for
yeah, and
ourselves
actually,
and for our partner.
yeah, and often dawn certain things I had assumed aren't true, and vice versa.
Right.
And you can get yourself into a right little head spin, can't you?
Yeah.
well, they don't ever think about me in that way, and da da da.
Right.
It's all about the kids, and then actually, it's not the truth. And when you pull them up on it, they go, "That's not how I feel." And
Right.
you're like, "I've just wasted all these months getting myself into a storyline that's not true. It's not true."
Yeah. When you're
Um,
questioning, ask.
yeah, I
Because
know the
nobody's a
power of
mind
question.
reader.
No, they're not. They're not, and we're not perfect. And I'm not a perfect husband as far as I'm not, around the house. I won't be as um, diligent as Katie would want me to be. And
Uh-huh.
that's irritating for a lot of wives. So at times I've learned to go, yeah, good comment, well made. I'll do better.
Mm-hmm.
Rather than be all prickly. No, I'm fine, and it's
Right.
not my problem.
Right.
I'll own up when and I could do more, and I've not carried my weight.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that helps. That's a love language that if your partner likes to keep the house tidy and you're not, then you're not really supporting them with love language, because after the first couple of champagne glory years, actually it becomes more than just what's going on in the bed.
Yeah.
It's about those deep and non-sexual touching, and the hug, and holding hands when out without your child, which is rare.
Right. Right.
Um, those become as important as the sort of holistic nature of just being together through
Yeah.
the thick and thin.
Yeah. Yeah. I would say that the bedroom is the icing on the cake, but everything else is the cake.
Yeah, is the cake. Yeah,
Yeah. So how
yeah.
how how would you define real love?
Um, I think real then just pairs back to being more present.
Mm-hmm.
And though Katie doesn't meditate, she is not someone that's at my level of presence. Um, I think I've seen signs through what I'm doing with my public speaking and the podcast that she is seeing the benefits when in a difficult moment to actually be more real.
Mm.
And I think friendships is an extension. Friendship is marriage is an extension of a friendship. So why would you not be as honest and real with your marriage or your partnership as you would
Mm-hmm.
be in a friendship?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's what real love is. Where yes, we talk about warts and all, we also have a good laugh, and you know, we our wedding vows. We joke it should have been in sickness and in sickness. You know, and if you can throw in those lines when there's a tough moment, it breaks it
Amen.
down. It
Yeah.
doesn't feel so bloody depressing.
Yeah.
It breaks the moment up in a nice way.
Yeah. Well,
So
I
that's
really appreciate your humor. I really appreciate your attitude, your presence, your gift of resilience, calm, and what was the third one?
joy.
Joy. Thank you.
Yeah.
Resilience, calm, and joy. I mean, you are a gift, Tim
Oh,
Wotton.
thank you very much. What cotton with a W?
So if people want to find your book and find your podcast, please tell us again.
Yeah, the book "How Have I Cheated Death" can
Mm-hmm.
be bought in all formats on Amazon, or can be ordered in bookstores. My podcast is called, as I said, "The Gift of Resilience, Calm, and Joy." It can be
Mm-hmm.
found on Apple, Google, and all the platforms. And you can find me on social media: Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, at Tim Wotton.
And what about your blog, which is beautiful, by the way?
My blog, yes, glad you mentioned that. It is called Postcards from Earth.
Mm-hmm.
It was counting down to 40, and now I've changed it.
Yeah. No, now it's just counting up. It
Yep.
just keeps counting up. Yeah, because you're a beautiful writer
Pardon me.
um, and a beautiful man. So I appreciate so much that you joined me today. You're a gift, and I can't wait to meet you in a
Yep.
month or so.
Pardon me, Dawn. Yes, looking
Sorry.
forward to that.
All right.
Thanks
So
for having me on the show.
you're quite welcome. And if you would like what you heard today, because I know you will, please subscribe to the Wake Up to Real Love podcast and share with all your friends. And if you would like support in finding more real love in your life, you can contact me on Facebook and Instagram at The Awakening with Dawn. And part of, this important part of having a relationship is putting yourself in other people's shoes. But as Tim said, the most important relationship you'll have is the one that you have with yourself, so that you can be the kind of partner that you want to have. So thank you so much, Tim. Thank you, listeners.
My pleasure.
And every day, wake up to more real love. Take care, everybody. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.